Hello, my name is Owen, and today I will be giving you my top 10 fantasy characters of all time. But I got a couple ground rules for this ranking. Number one, I will not be naming multiple characters from the same series. One character per series, and preferably one character per author. I like to spread the wealth a little bit, get talking about a little bit more books, talking about more series, stuff like that. I don't want to dig from the same well, all right? It gets a little bit muddy that way. Rule number two, this list is very fluid, right? Like all good things, it will change, it will evolve. And don't be afraid of change, because without change, there is no growth. And without growth, there is no success. So, if I haven't read your favorite series, it doesn't mean I hate your favorite character, or even if I have read it, I still don't think it's your favorite character. Who knows? Things can change. Things can change. So just be patient. This list will evolve. It will adapt as I read more series, as I read more books. But let's get straight into it. All right, coming in at number 10, we have Annabeth from the Percy Jackson series. The reason why I picked this character, the Percy Jackson series was a pillar of my childhood. It was like one of the first series of books that I read and then I fell in love with. And Annabeth is low-key the strongest character in the entire book, in the entire series, despite having no powers. I literally had to Google, I'm like, wait, she had to have had powers, right? Because like she's the type of character where she walks into a room and you know if things go wrong, number one, it wasn't her fault, and number two, she's going to be part of the solution. She's just like such a badass, and her and Percy's relationship are obviously like one of the driving forces of the series. And I don't remember which book it was, but the scene where she like lifts like Titans like the world, like that was like one of like top scenes. Like it's still like imprinted in my brain. I haven't read those books for like 7 years. But that's like imprinted in my brain. Such a badass character, such a strong character. And if I were to be the child of a god, Athena would probably be the way to go. Moving into number 9, we have another YA character from YA series. We have Halt from the Ranger's Apprentice series by John Flanagan. I'm not sure how many people read this series growing up, but it is what cemented me as a future fantasy fanatic. I read this book, I think it's like, I started like late elementary school, like maybe like middle school, I was reading these books. Ooh, I got super invested, let me tell you. There's a lot of books in this series, and it's just like dark green cloaks, archers, medieval fantasy. It's all there, and Halt is my favorite character archetype of like the trope of like the reluctant mentor. The guy who like pretends he's like, I hate it here, but he like looks out for the person. Like it's one of my favorite tropes ever. And he's like a mixture of Wolverine from Logan and Hawkeye, but he owns a pony. That's Halt, and he's so cool, and he's just my favorite character in that whole series, and he's like stands out in my brain as my number 9 favorite character of all time. Number 8, we have Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride, and I'll be honest, the movie version does impact this ranking a lot. Such an iconic performance, but the scene that lives rent-free in my brain, and it's good in the books too, but obviously it's iconic in the movie. The Six-Fingered Man fight. Oh man, it's such a great scene. I just want to watch that movie again just for that scene alone. It gives me chills every time. He goes, promise me everything and more. I want my father back, you son of a bitch. Man, it gives me chills, man. It's so good. I don't do it justice, I'll be honest with you. Moving on to number 7, we have Rose from the book The Bloody Rose, and from like the I think it's the band. It's a duology right now, but it's a trilogy. It's by Nicholas Eames. It's the sequel to Kings of the Wild. Rose is the titular character in the sequel book, and I really loved this book when I first read it. I liked it even more than the Kings of the Wild, which is kind of like a music-inspired mercenary fantasy, like very D&D like story. And like a ragtag group of mercenaries, the first one, and the second one is one of the main characters from the first book's daughter and her crew of mercenaries. They're very inspired by like 80s music, so it's a lot of fun. The series is a lot of fun as a whole, but like her character, like she's like obviously the titular character. She's such a badass, and like I think her whole story arc, it's just iconic because like the whole plot revolves around her, and for good reason, because Rose is a force to be reckoned with. And not gonna lie, I teared up at the end of this book, even though it was kind of silly and kind of fun. It also hits sometimes. I'll leave it for you to figure it out, but I'm just letting you know. Moving on, number 6, we have Locke from the Gentleman Bastard series, The Lies of Locke Lamora. really what tickles my fancy about Locke Lamora is he feels that like Sherlock Holmes archetype, where it's just a dude that's very good at what they do, and so good that like it's just fun. It's just fun to interact with. And he's like the Sherlock Holmes of like being, I was gonna say a douchebag, but like being a thief and like manipulating people. And it's so much fun to write. And it's so fun to read hyper intelligent characters, which another hyper intelligent character comes up in this list later. They're so fun to read, and I have no idea how authors write these characters, because like they must be like equally as smart as the characters they're writing, or like how do you write characters that are smarter than you? I don't understand how writers do that. But it's impressive, and I really like it. Locke Lamora is my number 6. Number 5, we have Shaheen Badi from The Lions of Al Rasan. Now, this is a book about 2 legendary men, right? You have the Rodrigo Belmonte. He's like the noble, like the leader. And then you have, I'm forgetting his name, but the other guy, he's like the poet warrior, and like these are like the legends, like the whole stories, like they both have nations behind them, and like who will they fight, like who will win their fight in the war, and it's like the fate of the world is on these 2 men's shoulders. But what really grounds them and what really motivates these 2 legends in this world is this doctor in between them, and she's such like a fascinating character, and the fact that she's able to draw plot focus, draw character focus in a story about these 2 legendary badass men, and it still be interesting following this doctor character, just shows the testament to the power and the strength of her character. And one of the things I love about her is that no matter what, no matter like the power of the influence around her, she sticks to her guns, and she sticks to like her own philosophy. And the ending of this book, I'm not going to spoil what happens, but there's a decision that happens at the end, and the book makes you think that she made one decision about how she wants to take her life, and you're kind of like, oh, like yeah, like I guess it makes sense, but it's kind of going against like what she's been saying the whole book, and it's revealed like no, she's on top of it. She's not gonna subserviate her wants and her desires on a whim. She doesn't work like that, and she's a great character, and my number 5 favorite character of all time. Number 4, we have Jaime Lannister from A Song of Ice and Fire. I never shut up about Jaime Lannister. He is such a crookedly complex character. He is so fun to read. His POVs are my absolute favorite. And it's just interesting because he's the type of person who is horrible, but you get to know why he's horrible, and nobody around him helps him or gives him any like chance to redeem himself. So he just consistently commits to being horrible, especially like before we get into his POVs. And his POVs are him desperately trying to be better. But like I said, no one's helping him out, and he's not helping himself out that much. He's like in like a cycle of toxicity and ego. And it's horribly tragic, but it's horribly fun to read. Jaime Lannister, my number 4. Number 3, we got a character from Mao Zan. Now, this one was difficult because I wanted to pick a character from Mao Zan, but there's so many good characters. Do I pick Anamander Rake, the 200,000-year-old legend? Do I pick like Crazy Quick Ben, Whiskey Jack? He's a classic, right? No, I picked the one, the only Kalam Mekar. He's so cool, and I don't really know how to talk about him without spoiling a lot of things, but let's just say towards the end of the series in The Bone Hunters, my favorite Mao Zan book, he does the coolest thing I've ever seen. What is it? Well, if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you got to read to find out. He is an assassin, but he's like against the archetype of like the sneaky, stealthy assassin. He's the assassin who's built like a fire truck, and he's so feared, not because he's so quiet and he sneaks up on you. No, because if you fight him, he's just going to beat the shit out of you. And you can't beat him. He's built like a damn wall. And like he's partnered with Quick Ben, which obviously is an iconic duo. It's like a magic and a brute strength. But like they're equally feared despite Quick Ben being able to like blow you up from the inside. Just a normal ass guy who's just really jacked. It's amazing. And he's a great character, and he's my number 3 on the list. Number 2, we got another modern fantasy classic character, Kaladin Stormblessed from the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, obviously. Another difficult series to choose a favorite character from, but I just think that Honor's Dead, but I'll see what I can do, is the most badass line in fantasy, period. And obviously deliver that line, Kaladin. I mean, my poor guy, he goes through the ringer and he needs therapy, but he's got some one-liners, and obviously, he's a hero of the people, and he's so fun to read. My favorite character from the series, and my number 2 favorite character of all time. My number one fantasy character of all time so far, like I said, this list is malleable, it's changeable, it's evolvable. However, my number 1 spot, it's going to be hard to displace this number 1, is the Inquisitor Glotka from First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. Congratulations. Like I said earlier, I have a thing for very hyper-intelligent characters, and this guy is the Sherlock Holmes of torturing people. Doesn't get better than that. When I first started reading this trilogy, I hated this guy. He was literally disgusting, and like the descriptions of him with like sucking his gums because he has no teeth, it just, it's nasty. But he's so intelligent, and he's intelligent in a deviously evil, but is he evil? I don't even know. Because sometimes he does things where I'm like, wow, like what a hero, except you're the worst. And the fact that he has this like fall from grace background of like, he was like the Jaime Lannister of the First Law world. He was like the knight in shining armor. And similar to Jaime Lannister, he had a fall from grace of being mutilated, except it's like, instead of getting your hand cut off, it's like literally all your body parts are deformed, and now everybody like looks down on you. It's just, and the way that he interprets that and sees himself, and how that like twisted his ego into like something like sinister, and he's still hyper intelligent though, and he's going to use that to all his advantages. So fun to read. He is by far the strongest character, I think, in that First Law trilogy, and that's like saying something, because like Logan Ninefingers is a very strong character. I like Baez, like. But Glotka, man, he's on another level. He's like the Tyrion Lannister wants to be. I'll say that out front. In terms of like intelligence, like deviousness, like manipulating people, but like doing what's right? ? I think Tyrion Lannister is a better person. Hopefully, I don't know how it ends up, but I guess nobody does. That's my list, guys. Thank you so much. If you want to stick around to see how this list evolves, maybe I do it again in a year or so, be sure to subscribe. It helps out a lot. I got a lot of fun things I'm going to be talking about. So I'd love it if you guys are here too. And give me your favorite characters in the description. And if your favorite characters in a series that I haven't read about or haven't talked about, shout it out. Because I want this list to change. I want it to evolve. And be sure to like the video. It does help a lot. Thank you so much, guys. Have a happy holidays and have a happy new year. Ta-ta.